Today we are doing a freezer top refrigerator review. Now, this one's a little bit different than any other one I've done. I gave all the users of the channel a chance to vote on what they wanted me to review, and of the fridge choices, they chose, well, what I actually own already in my house. So rather than go out and have to buy one, we're going to review my personal refrigerator, and there's very specific technology in this that I'm going to show you that makes it kind of awesome for a cheap refrigerator. But we don't have to take my word for it. We're going to tear this down just like if it was bought new at our store and study what's inside the refrigerator. And since I've had this for 2 years, we can see all the little components and see if they're lasting well, or if this refrigerator may be on the way out and I just don't know it. So let's get to the video. But first, it looks like there's crap in it. So let's do a montage while I get this cleaned out. While I clean the fridge out to make it presentable on camera, let's go over a few things about the refrigerator. It is a top mount refrigerator, and it comes in a few different colors and sizes from the various big box stores. This particular unit is an FFTR1835VW. It's 30 inches wide, 30.5 inches deep, and 66.75 inches tall. There are similar models like this in a 20 cubic foot profile in the FFTR2045, and the refrigerator is available in white, black, or stainless steel. The white version retails for about $700, but is often found for far less, and I think I paid about $549 for this when I bought it 2 years ago. Lowes.com also has a specific FFTR1835. I'm unsure if there's any real difference between that and this one, and the same internals would apply. With the refrigerator mostly clean now, let's talk about the shelving, because it seems that that is always a point of contention in these type of refrigerators. There are two super large crisper pans at the bottom, then there are two adjustable shelves that can move quite a bit depending on the height you need. Although they aren't adjusted great, I found that this deli drawer is a pretty nice feature to have on such a cheap fridge. In general, the glass shelves themselves seem to be pretty heavy duty on the fridge despite the price tag. They're held in place by small plastic retaining clips on the side of the shelves, and when moving, you do need to be careful on these when you move them to make sure they don't fall out. The movable deli drawer is also nice when you need to eat just a whole bag of cheese in one sitting. But what I do care about regarding this refrigerator is right here. It only takes about a minute to get to in the refrigerator, and I don't always take apart my own appliances at home, but when I do, I make sure it's on camera for you guys. This is why I really like my refrigerator, or this specific FFTR1835 or LFTR1835, and I think there's an 1814 version as well, and then there's a 20 cubic foot of this model. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty of this refrigerator, the most important thing is right here. And it's very simplistic. It has no electronic PCBs in it. It's more or less what you're going to find in a fridge from the 1980s. You have your defrost timer here, and then you have a electromechanical cold control. And that's basically all there is to it on the front of the machine. This tells the refrigerator when it's too hot or too cold to run the compressor behind it. And then this runs your defrost cycle in a predetermined interval of between 8 and 12 hours, just depending on the model. What makes this so good is that Frigidaire and many other companies have a terrible habit of choosing PCBs in like adaptive defrost controls or cold controls that they end up supporting after a certain number of years. We could take either of these parts out and replace them from a unit from the 1970s that Frigidaire made, and it would still work. These systems are available both from Frigidaire as well as any other third-party company, so these will be infinitely replaceable for a long period of time. Sometimes PCBs are a really bad deal. Now, this means it will not be as efficient as a modern refrigerator with an adaptive defrost, but given the fact that it's going to be way more easily repairable, we'd probably save a lot more electricity in the long run. Now, it still has LED lighting in it, so it uses a 5-watt bulb, which works great, and the cold control works pretty well. That's why I like this design so much. It's not the most energy efficient, but it's probably the most cost efficient, given that it's just not going to break. But the key here, otherwise, is that if you have voltage surges or power outages that could otherwise destroy a PCB, this is going to be perfectly fine because it can handle the voltage fluctuations a lot better. So unless you have an uninterrupted power supply, this is probably going to last a whole lot longer, and I wish more electromechanical designs were out there. So let's go ahead and put this back together and then look behind the system to see what kind of compressor this system runs, and I may have to clean the coils because I've never done that on my fridge. One key is at the back of this refrigerator, and it's regardless of what you buy, is to always make sure that the cover plate is clean and free of obstructions. Obviously, there's a little bit of YouTube magic here to make sure the floor is clean. The actual compressing system was pretty well kept and clean from 2 years of solid use in a household of 5 people. Behind the cover, this is what we see, and the entire system's in good shape despite the fact I've never cleaned it. There's a harness for an ice maker attachment on the right side if we wanted it. The system also has a standalone capacitor, which is kind of neat and very different for this model from my experience, and it's all empowered by an Embraco compressor made in Mexico. At least historically, Embraco compressors have been one of, if not the best compressors on the market, so the fact that they went with this instead of a Chinese compressor, say by Midea, it's pretty neat to me and speaks to, I think, the possible reliability of the unit. The brazing work, though, is okay. There wasn't a lot of patina on the copper tubing, which would suggest any forthcoming sealed system issues, which is good. Going back to the front of the refrigerator, probably one of my only areas of concern would be the indoor shelves. Although none of them have broken on me, and they've worked fine for storing things for years. Some people know that these are not the most sturdy, and Frigidaire does have a habit of selling pretty flimsy door shelves, as even on the old school ones, the retainer pieces were not always the best, but they're usually pretty easy to buy and replace. Finally, let's look at the sealed system inside the refrigerator itself. This one is a bit different than the older school Frigidaires, which have a few parts that I'm not happy about as a tech, but as a consumer, you may not even care about it. Once you get behind the panel, there's a very simplistic evaporator system. There's an area on the left side for the ice maker. There's a defrost heater that has an integrated defrost sensor in it as well. Overall, this is similar to most higher-end systems at a fraction of the price. One thing I don't like is that the heater and the defrost system is all one piece, so if you have to replace one or the other, it does require buying an assembly, which is a little bit expensive at $80, but that's the most expensive thing on the entire system. Another key on the freezer would be the joint weld between the copper and aluminum evaporator here. Behind the mastic tape, the weld looks like it's in pretty decent shape. I know that on some models like Whirlpool's, this is rather shoddy, and you find failed systems around the 4 to 5 year mark. This refrigerator is only 2 years old, so we don't see any patina or other issues that would suggest leaks developing, but it's hard to guess just from this video in my particular refrigerator. One other thing to note is that the make of the unit is the noise. One thing I did check during filming was my phone's decibel meter and found out that when the compressor was running, the single stage unit, it was about 50 decibels from 4.5 feet away. Depending on your lifestyle, you may care about this or not. In the end, I think the FFTR1835, they're so simplistic, they are going to be hard to go wrong with. Does that mean that they're going to last forever? No. The reality is top mount refrigerators are built cheaper and cheaper every year because they are the lowest price point refrigerator on the market. Even though I think that this has the Embraco compressor, which is great, everything I can tell in the fridge is great, the solder work is great, the price point usually means something somewhere that I can't see has had its corners cut. So there may be other suggestions on the market if you have more money. The GE GTS 19 or the GTS 20 is also a good choice, but the reality is I think by going with a top mount refrigerator, you're not going to have many problems. I really like this, owned it for 2 years, 0 problems whatsoever, and if there was a problem with it, the most expensive thing in the refrigerator is maybe $80 at retail to fix. That is amazing for a DIY refrigerator because even if you go slightly more expensive on a side-by-side or a French door, the certain components like the boards are going to run hundreds of dollars. This is a DIYer's dream that you can fix everything on, so I think it's an amazing fridge. You find these on sale for under $600 at Lowe's or some of the other big box retail stores, which I think is a steal. I highly suggest this kind of refrigerator if you are looking for a basic refrigerator. You can add the ice maker on it, although I still definitely prefer the old traditional style because this is what I've been using for years, because you can't really break these too easily, and when you do, well, they're 99 cents. I think even the LG LTCS 20 is not a bad choice if you want to go more expensive, especially if you want energy efficiency. But the reality on energy efficiency is this uses only about 430 kilowatt hours per year for this style. It's about 10% less efficient than say an LG does with an inverter motor compressor. But over the course of 10 years, you may not be saving enough money to justify the price increase. And it's hard to say if that refrigerator is going to be as reliable as this one, although I think for features it's a little bit better. Hope you enjoy the review. Make sure to buy one of these. I think you'll like it, but if not, have a great day.